someone says, I don't believe in climate change, the correct approach is not to say, wow, that's so stupid. Why don't you believe in climate change? Because then you've insulted them. And even if you say it like, oh, well, everyone knows it's true, you're still insulting the person you're talking to. So it's, rather than seeing it as this person's a jerk, they don't believe in this. Of course, it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in it. It's true anyway. If you have the attitude of, you know what, I'm really curious about why this person doesn't believe in climate change. What happened with her that she thinks that it's not real. So then you can just say, why do you say that? And just listen. And the answers that you get are surprising sometimes, because oftentimes people will say, well, I read this thing or I saw this thing. And then you can say, oh, okay, that's really interesting. I'll look into that. Let me show you this other thing. And it kind of opens the door where they've shared something with you. So now they kind of feel like they need to listen to you as well. So that's, it's kind of a give and take. And it's really important that if you do want to engage with someone like that, if you don't have the answer, if you're not super well versed in it, just learn, just listen to what they're saying, learn what their belief system is built on, and then go and educate yourself more so that, hopefully at a future point, you can re-engage with them or with somebody else with the same issue, and you'll be more informed on it. And I think that kind of curiosity about why people hold the beliefs that they do, I think that's the cure for the ignorance that we're seeing spread. And I guess the praise of ignorance that we're seeing in our society now. It's really being held up and reveled in. And that worries me too. But I think that it's something that we can push back on if we allow our innate curiosity as humans to kind of drive the car and approach things with a sense of wonder. Even people you think are nuts because they don't believe in objective facts. That's okay. It's really okay. I mean, just find out something about them. Learn about them too, because everybody has something to teach us.
All right, so I don't want to let having a volcanologist on the line go by without asking you about what's going on in Hawaii right now. So, there are this eruption going on in a volcano that, because we were showing the kids, I just realized has been in a constant state of eruption since 1983, but there's fissures right now that are problematic for, people who have homes in the area. Is what we're seeing outside of the norm at all? Is it just to be expected? What are the sort of correct responses that the government should make to this kind of volcanic activity?
Well, the good thing is that the USGS there in Hawaii, that the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, they know so much about Kilauea because it is one of the world's best natural laboratories. It's such an accessible volcano. It's not the cone-shaped volcano like Mount St. Helens was before it blew its top, or Mount Rainier, or any of the things that kids draw when they draw a picture of a volcano. Hawaiian volcanoes are shield volcanoes, which are long and a lot less steep-sided. They also produce lavas that are much more oozy, and they flow better. They don't really erupt explosively like you would see from, Vesuvius or from a Mount St. Helens type eruption. So Kilauea, which has been erupting, you're right, since 1983, it's been in a particular eruptive phase since 2008, where there's been an eruption going on at the summit of the volcano, as well as down the flank and towards the ocean. And just recently, with all these earthquakes that we saw going on, those earthquakes indicated that magma was moving around beneath the surface, and the summit of the volcano started to deflate a bit, and the East Rift Zone, where the eruption is going on, started to have fissures open up. I mean, there was a release of gases, there were earthquakes, and then the fissures opened. So that is something that has happened before, and this is an area where they haven't had fresh lava, and I say fresh meaning within, the last couple of decades, which is nothing in volcano time, but there's been lavas there within the last 750 years or so. So on geologic timescales, it's pretty recent. And actually, the East Rift Zone had an eruption in 1955 that it's not in exactly the same area, but it's fairly close. And that eruption, there were 24 fissures, and it lasted for 3 months and covered 4,000 acres with lava. So pretty big deal. But again, it's Hawaii, so not unexpected. This isn't a part of the island where they weren't able to prepare. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the homes, a lot of the land there in that subdivision of Leilani Estates, it was parceled out before they realized how big the hazard risk actually was. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are losing their homes and possessions right now. But because it's Hawaii, the lava flows move pretty slowly, and people are able to get out. It's not like the lava is going to overrun them or anything. These lava flows move slow enough so that most of the time, regular walking adults could easily get in front of them.
Coming back to the continental U.S. and maybe also pseudoscience, you see a lot of clickbait stories about the supervolcano under Yellowstone and how it's going to destroy most of the continental U.S. At some point. How much should we be worried about something like that?
On the list of things I worry about, it's pretty close to the bottom because Yellowstone, it is a supervolcano. It has erupted at least three times that we have very well documented. And the last time was 640,000 years ago, more or less. And then before that, 1.2 million years. And before that, 1.8 million years. So it's kind of erupted at about a 600,000, give or take, interval. However, because it's, we're talking on the hundreds of thousands of years, the odds of it erupting on any given day when any of us are alive are extremely slim. Plus, the USGS actually has a Yellowstone Volcano Observatory. They're headquartered out of Menlo Park, California, but they have sensors all over Yellowstone, all over the caldera. And there is a supervisory geologist who works out there in Yellowstone National Park. So they keep a really close eye on it 24/7. And even when they see things like earthquake swarms or little inflation events where it's, the magma chambers doing some things, that's okay because we can watch it. We can see it and take its pulse and kind of judge what the risk is. But I mean, when it did erupt before, the ash, which is not like fireplace ash, this is rock fragments, actually went all the way to Washington, D.C. area. So it is a big eruption when it happens. It's just that most likely, very, very, very likely that none of us will see anything close to that.
Well, that's reassuring.
We've got plenty of other things to worry about right now.
Yeah. Don't stress about Yellowstone.
As far as misconceptions and pseudoscience and climate change denial, something I've often seen some of my libertarian friends cite as an indicator that we're not actually driving climate change is the idea that volcanism is actually much, much more powerful than human activity. And if anything, we're a drop in the bucket as far as the carbon output compared to, say, the Icelandic volcano or, some of the other volcanoes that have influenced the climate in the past. Do you encounter that sort of skepticism and that sort of appropriation of your scientific specialty to try to make some sort of policy point?
Well, I kind of laugh about it because it's so backwards. All the volcanoes on the world, of which there are 1,700 or so on land and undersea, they all together make about 200 million tons of CO2 every year. Okay. And this is USGS data. But the automotive and industrial activities, so like everything else that humans produce, remember, 200 million, humans produce 24 billion tons of CO2. So we're talking a fraction of the actual CO2 output that humans produce. So all the volcanoes in the world combined every year pretty much don't do that much. So, and it's just, we can measure this. So this is not, when people say that, it's just completely not based in fact. And you kind of say, where's your data from? And then you start down that hole. But it is important to find out where they're getting their information from because, we have a whole government agency that is dedicated towards monitoring things like this. And all of the data that we've collected, of which nobody has any reason to lie about. There is no big green trying to lobby for dollars. It's not like the fossil fuel industry. So we just have to look at the money again, follow the money. If you want the conspiracy, it's there when the same techniques that were used to convince people that cigarettes were harmless were started to be employed by the fossil fuel industry to convince us that climate change wasn't a big deal and that we didn't have to worry about it.
All right. Well, we don't want to keep you all night, although it sounds like we probably could come up with plenty of questions. But is there anything else that you want to make sure that people are thinking about, either about you and your run for Congress or science in general?
Just, again, be curious. I mean, if we can continue to ask questions about everything, ask questions of our elected officials, ask questions of people who work in different fields than we do, ask questions about people who are activists in their communities, and teach kids to ask questions too. but just, be curious in everything that you do, because that will shine a light into the darkness, into the darkness that we see from ignorance and intolerance and hate. And I think it's all of our duty as people who care about the future of our country and our planet to ask those questions and have the difficult conversations, whether it's political or scientific or otherwise.
All right. And final question. What's your favorite Star Trek series?
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So I used to say it was the original series, but I love Discovery now. And it may just be because it's current, but I'm going to just go with Discovery because I think it's awesome.
All right. I'm a Voyager girl myself.
TNG.
Oh, Voyager is cool. Oh, yeah. TNG is my husband's favorite because he had a big-time teenage crush on Marina Sirtis, Counselor Troy.
Who has now endorsed your campaign, so...
I know, right? How funny is that?
All right, Jess. Well, thank you so much. And your primary is June 5th?
Yes, that is right. 20-something days. I don't exactly know, but we're in the final stretch here. So if anyone wants to donate, volunteer, get out the vote, we're happy to have the help.
All right. And are early ballots already out?
Yes, they actually dropped this week.
Okay. And I think in California you have those fun booklets people can look through if they're on the permanent absentee list.
Yes, I get one of those too.
Thank you so much, Jess. And for everybody else, we'll put a link to Jess's website so you can check it out for yourself. And if we're ever in the 25th district, we'll bring the kids by so you can teach them about volcanoes.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere in Southern California, basically, the greater LA area. I'd love to meet up with you guys and we can talk volcanoes anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Imunari, and we're using it with express permission of the band. Our logo and all original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and is done expressly for Two Broads Talking Politics. We can be found on our website at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com. You can reach us by email at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com, on Twitter at twobroadstalk, on Facebook and Instagram, and you can support us on patreon.com. You can find our podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and anywhere podcasts are found. If you are interested in advertising on Two Broads Talking Politics, please email us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com.